Hello everyone, thank you for joining me today and for your time in this wet day in Manchester. If you can hear the rain throwing it down. So let's dive into today's daf, which is Bava kamma, daf 85, Omid A. Over here in Nasim, Ben Azai disagree over whether the hermeneutical principle of generalization and detail is applied with regard to generalization and detail that are distant from each other. When a generalization is followed by detail, the halacha applies only in the case specified in the detail. The verse states, kavir for kavir, a wound for a wound, a bor for a bor, Exodus 21:25. The word kavir is, as stated in the beginning of the verse, is a generalization that includes burns not accompanied by bruises, as well as burns accompanied by bruises. A bor is stated at the end of the verse, is a detail of a burn that accompanied by a bruise. The Torah distances the detail habor from the generalization kavir by stating halacha of a wound for a wound between them. The Bava Nasi holds that since there is an intervening phrase between the generalization and detail, one does not derive the halacha from the verse concerning burns and bruises by employing the principle of generalization and detail. Therefore, the one who causes the injury is liable to pay compensation for all pain in all cases of burns, even those that are not accompanied by bruises. And Bava holds that one does derive the halacha from the verse concerning burns and bruises by employing the principle of generalization and detail. And therefore, the one who caused the injury is liable to pay compensation for pain only if the burn is accompanied by a bruise. And if you would say, according to the opinion of Bava Nasi, why do I need the Torah to state the halacha of habor for habor, as that is included as a subset of kavir? The phrase mentioning habor is necessary to teach the halacha of additional money. In the case where someone caused a burn and a bruise, he pays additional compensation for the bruise beyond that for the burn. The Mishnah teaches how is the payment for pain assessed. The court evaluates how much money a person with a similar threshold for pain as the victim is willing to take in order to be made to suffer in this way. The one who burned the victim must then pay this amount. They will ask, how do we appraise pain in a case where the injured party also suffered personal injury? Shmuel's father says, the court evaluates how much money a person is willing to take to allow someone to sever his hand. The Gemara objects, do you really mean sever his hand? Or is evaluation not just for pain, but to include all 5 types of indemnity? Moreover, we are dealing with fools. Moreover, are we dealing with fools who would accept money to have their hands severed? The Gemara answers, rather, the court evaluates how much money a person would accept to allow someone to sever his already severed hand, which is of no use. The company explains that the Gemara does not mean that his hand has already been severed, but rather the hand is paralyzed and cannot be used for any work. Even though amputation may be the preferred course of action, the act of amputation is itself painful. It is explained during some time that his hand is actually severed already, and the court evaluates how much he would accept to sever part of his arm, which is of no use. The Gemara objects, in the case of his severed hand also, there is not pain alone, but there is both pain and humiliation, because it is embarrassing for him if someone were able to take a part of his flesh to throw it to the dogs. The Gemara answers, rather the court evaluates how much a person is willing to take to allow someone to sever his hand, which is already condemned by a written decree from the government to be severed. What does that mean? In some countries, such as ancient Persia, the severing of a hand was punishment stated in the law, and the hand would be severed by a sword or axe. This punishment is still in effect in certain countries in modern times. Changing the decree from having it severed by means of a drug, what does that mean? A sum. This may be referring to an anesthetic or sedative that would be administered before severing the hand to minimize the pain. The one being punished by the government could arrange this by petitioning the government or bribing those charged with carrying out the punishment, which is not accompanied by pain, to having it severed by means of a sword, which is accompanied by pain. The amount of money he would accept to have his hand severed by a sword instead of by the drug is his compensation. The sages say in objection hereto, one would not take money and cause himself pain in this way, so there is no indemnity to evaluate. The Gemara answers, rather the court evaluates how much a person will give To assess the compensation for pain of someone who lost a limb, in the court debates how much he would pay. The government decreed that he lose this limb. To have the verdict carried out without pain. The Ramah, citing the Rosh, writes that if the injury caused only pain, e.g. a burn on his fingernail, then the court writes how much one would pay. If the government decreed that he must sustain this injury. To have the verdict carried out, pay for matter. Magic 210 Shulchan Aruch Hashemet before in 2016. To have someone sever its hand, which is already condemned by a written decree from the government to be severed. Changing the decree from having it be severed by means of a sword, have I said that one? Which is accompanied by pain, to having it be severed by means of a drug, which is not accompanied by pain. The Gemara objects. If this is the case, then this wording of the Mishnah to take its imprecise, it should have said to give. Rav Huna, son of Rav Yeshua, said, the Mishnah means that the court evaluates how much this one, the injured party, will take from that one, i.e. the one who caused the injury based on what this man, injured party, would have given to the government that was hand severed by a drug rather than with a sword. The Mishnah teaches, how is paying for medical costs assessed? If one struck another, then he is liable to heal him by paying for his medical costs. The sage is taught in the Bible in 9:4. If growths appear, if the court says how much time and money would be required for the injured party to recover, and the one who caused the injury paid the compensation for medical costs and the loss of livelihood immediately, he does not need to add to this amount. If he agreed to pay the injured party's medical costs on an ongoing basis, and growth appeared due to the injury, or the wound reopened after it partially healed, the one who caused the injury must continue to pay compensation for medical costs and loss of livelihood. If growth that were not due to the injury appeared, the one who caused the injury does not pay compensation for medical costs or for loss of livelihood. In the brighter, I'm saying for Nazichin, Hilchit Horo Mazik 214 Shulchan Aruch Hashemet before in 2019 on the injured area due to the injury and the wound reopened, then the one who caused the injury is again liable to heal him by covering his medical costs, and is liable to give him the value of loss of livelihood while he recovers from the reopened wound. But if the growths that appear are not due to the injury, he is not liable to heal him by covering his medical costs, and he is not liable to give him the value of his loss of livelihood. The Bible continues. Rabbi Yehuda says that even if the growth appeared due to the injury, he is liable to heal him by covering his medical costs, but he is not liable to give him the value of his loss of livelihood. And the rabbis say, the one who caused the injury is not liable at all, because the Torah states the halachot, the compensation for the loss of livelihood. The first time and the later rabbis agree that the Torah juxtaposes the halachot of medical costs and loss of livelihood. He agrees in the case of growth due to the injury, then holds that the one who caused the injury pays both indemnities, whereas the latter rabbis hold that he pays neither, and the costs together. This teaches that anyone who is liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood is also liable to pay compensation for medical costs, and who is not liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood is also not liable to pay compensation for medical costs. So the Gemara asks, with regard to what do they disagree? Rabbi said, I found the sages in the steady hall of Rav when they were sitting and were stating an explanation. Here Rabbi Yehuda and the rabbis disagree about whether a wound may be wrapped in a bandage. Eged. Wrapping a wound in a bandage prevents infection and protects the sensitive area from injury. A bandage that is too thick or too large may promote the growth of bacteria that thrive in low oxygen environments. Additionally, a bandage that is too tight can restrict the flow of blood to the wound, thereby slowing the healing process. I.e., whether one is permitted to bandage his wound to lessen the pain at the risk of causing damaging side effects. Rabba explains. The rabbis, i.e. the first time in the Braisa, hold that a wound may be wrapped in a bandage Accordingly, if the bandage causes side effects which lead the injured party to incur additional medical costs, those expenses are considered to have resulted from the original injury, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that a wound may not be wrapped in a bandage. Therefore, with regard to medical costs, about which the verse repeated the obligation to pay them by stating, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed, Bava Exodus 21:19, the one who caused the injury is liable to pay compensation. But for loss of livelihood, about which the verse did not repeat the obligation to pay, the one who caused the injury is not liable to pay compensation. Rabbi continues, and I said to them that if Rabbi Yehuda had a wound, then the one who caused the injury should also not be liable to pay compensation for medical costs, as he is not liable to compensate the injured party for damage resulting from his own irresponsible behavior. Rather, the disagreement is as follows. Everyone agrees that a wound may be wrapped in a bandage, but may not be wrapped in excessive bandage. What does that mean? Gaonim cited in Shita Mokubes explained that this is a bandage that covers a larger area than is necessary. And Hanan explained that this refers to a bandage that is tighter than necessary. He explained in the dispute, Rabbi Yehuda holds that since a wound may not be wrapped in excessive bandage, and with regard to medical costs, about which the verse repeated the obligation to pay them by stating, Yurape, verse 21:19, the one who caused the injury is liable to pay compensation. But for loss of livelihood, about which the verse did not repeat the obligation to pay, the one who caused the injury is not liable to pay compensation, and the rabbis, either first hand and the Bride as a whole, since the verse repeats the obligation to pay compensation for medical costs, one is also liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood, which is juxtaposed to the obligation to pay for medical costs, as the verse states, only he shall pay for the loss of his time, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. The Gemara comes on, Yehuda holds that even though medical costs and loss of livelihood are juxtaposed, the one who caused the injury is not liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood in this case. The words one restricted it in the Torah, as the verse states, only he shall pay for his loss of livelihood, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed. Verse 19 only is a restricting term, and the rabbi shall hold that one must pay for loss of livelihood in this case as well. Hold the word only is coming to exclude growth that were not due to the injury, with regard to which the one who caused the injury is exempt from liability. According to the opinion of later rabbis in the Braita, who say anyone who is liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood is liable to pay compensation for medical costs, and anyone who is not liable to pay compensation for loss of livelihood is not liable to pay compensation for medical costs. How do I account for the fact that the verse repeats the obligation to pay medical costs? The one answers, let's say that which the school of Rabbi Shmuel taught. As it's taught in the Braita that the school of Rabbi Shmuel says, when the verse states, and shall cause him to be thoroughly healed, Yurape in Exodus 21:19 is derived from here that permission is granted to a doctor to heal. This is in contrast to wise men's opinion that people do not have permission to intervene with the Creator's plans, and that if God decreed that a person should fall ill, it's up to God to decide if the person should be healed. This concept is further discussed in the Rambam's commentary on the Torah in Leviticus 26:11. It tells us in the Rashba, why the Rabbi Shmuel derives his ruling from the double language of Yurape. The meaning of the verse is referring only to healing from injuries caused by other people, but the use of double language serves to include healing even from diseases. The Torah granted doctors permission to heal people. Working as a doctor is considered a mitzvah and is included in the obligation to save the life of one in danger. Even if another doctor is available, it is a mitzvah for the doctor to make an effort to heal another. Shulchan Aruch Yodei 36:1, and it is not considered to be an intervention counter to the will of God. The sage is taught in a Braita. From where is it derived that if growth appeared due to the injury and the wound reopened, then the one who caused the injury is again liable to heal him by covering his medical costs, and liable to give him the value of his loss of livelihood while he recovers from the reopened wound. The verse states, and he shall cause him to be thoroughly healed, Exodus 21:19. One might have thought that this is the halacha even if the growth were not due to the injury. Therefore, the verse states, only he shall pay for his loss of livelihood in order to exclude this case. This is in accordance with the opinion of the first Tana in the previous Braita. Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda says, even if the growth appeared due to the injury, the one who caused the injury is exempt, as it is stated only. There are those who say that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda says, even if the growth appeared due to the injury, the one who caused the injury is completely exempt from paying compensation, both for medical costs and loss of livelihood. And this is according to the opinion of the last rabbis in the previous Braita. And there are those who say that Rabbi Yossi Bar Yehuda says, even if the growth appeared due to the injury, the one who caused the injury is exempt from paying compensation for loss of livelihood, but is liable to pay compensation for medical costs. According to whose opinion is the statement, it is according to the opinion of his father Rabbi Yehuda. Analyze the statement of Braita. The master said, one might have thought that this is halacha even if the growth were not due to the injury. Therefore, the verse states, only he shall pay for loss of livelihood, to teach that he is exempt in this case. The Gemara asks, is there a need for the verse to teach that he is exempt in the case of growth that were not due to the injury? The sages say, what did the Braita mean when it said that the growth were not due to the injury? As is taught in a Braita, the case of one who violated his doctor's instructions. Let's explain that. Tosfot explained that the injured party is not considered totally at fault, because even though the doctor prohibited eating honey, his suffering still results from the original injury. The Braita therefore says that one might have thought that the one who caused the injury should be liable to cover the medical costs as well, but the verse teaches otherwise. If the injured party violated his doctor's instructions and his ailment worsened as a result, the one who caused him injury is not liable for covering the medical costs associated with that deterioration. I'm safe in the Zichan, Hora Umazik 214, Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 2020, and ate honey or any type of sweet food, which the doctor had instructed him not to eat because of the fact that honey and type of sweet food are detrimental to the recovery from the injury. Ingesting large quantities of sweet foods can cause a rise in blood sugar, which in turn can delay the healing of injuries. In addition, poor circulation caused by the fatty deposits in the arteries can limit the amount of oxygen and healing nutrients to reach a wound. Nerve damage or neuropathy causes numbness in the feet that prevents open wounds from healing. Moreover, when blood sugar levels are high, the immune system cannot effectively do its job of clearing away dead and damaged tissue and building new skin cells. And the injury developed Gurgutni, most scholars associate the word with the Greek Golgothos, meaning net. The word may have been extended to describe growth of flesh around the wound that would resemble netting. One might have thought that the one who caused the injury should be liable to heal him by covering his medical costs. Therefore, the verse states only to teach that he is exempt in this case. The Gemara asks, what does it mean of Gugusni? Abai said, necrosis. What is this remedy? Crystalline, ice plant, and wax and wine dregs. And explain crystalline ice plant. Certain plants known as ahol are indigenous to Eretz Yisrael. One of them, known as the common ice plant, is an annual plant that grows in the Sharon and Shefela regions of Eretz Yisrael in rocks and walls that face the sea. The surface of these plants is covered in small translucent sacs that look like ice crystals, which give it the name ice plant. This plant contains a noticeable amount of sodium carbonate and was used for laundering, clothing, and bathing. It can be used for medicinal purposes as a diuretic and for relieving some types of inflammation. The Gemara presents several halachot concerning compensation for medical costs, and if the one who caused the injury says to the injured party, I will heal you, the one who caused the injury offered to heal the injured party himself or claimed that he would bring a doctor who works for free. The court does not listen to him. Rather, he must hire an expert doctor to heal the injured party for free. Seif Nazir and Hechet over Mazik 218 Shulchan Aruch Mishpat 2021. So, as I am a doctor, the injured party may say to him, you are to me as a predatory lion, in that I fear you and do not trust you to heal me. And if one who caused the injury says to the injured party, I will bring you a doctor who heals at no cost. Even today, doctors believe that there is value to the patient paying a fee for his care, for both physical and psychological ailments. This is because the fee causes the patient to hit the doctor's orders more seriously than anything that might cause the condition to deteriorate. Furthermore, for the doctor, knowing that he does not practice out of altruism, can sometimes be an incentive to relate to the patient more seriously. The Rosh here notes the psychological component present, that if the patient does not have confidence in the ability of the doctor, he will not heal him as well, so that I will not need to pay for your medical costs. The injured party may say to a doctor who heals for no cost is worth nothing. And if the one who caused the injury says to the injured party, I will bring you to a doctor from a distant place, the one who caused the injury said to the injured party, I will bring you a doctor from a distant place, the court does not listen to him. 2022. The injured party may say to him, the doctor from a distant place blinds the eye. What does that mean? The commentaries offer several explanations for this expression. Rashi explains that since the doctor's practice is far away and people in this area are unlikely to learn of the result of his treatments here, he is not concerned about the consequence of his treatment, even if the patient ends up blind. The Orach explains that because the doctor needs to travel a great distance to reach the patient could go blind by the time he arrives. The Meiri further explains that the doctor's credentials are unknown, and he may be a fraud who blinds the world with his deception. A local doctor's incentive is to ensure the patient fully heals, while a doctor from a distant place has no incentive to monitor the patient once he's recovered his fee. And if that one, the injured party, says to the one who caused him injury, give the money to me, the injured party said, settle an amount with me and pay it to me directly, and I will take responsibility for healing myself. The court does not listen to him. While the one who caused him the injury pays him compensation on an ongoing basis, or settles an amount for the entire recovery period and pays it through the court. On Sefer Nazich and Hilchot Mazik 217 Shulchan Aruch to Mizbeach in 2023. It is responsibility for healing myself. The one who caused him the injury may say to him, you will be negligent with yourself, and you will take more from me than was originally necessary. And if the injured party says to the one who caused him injury, settle the fixed sum for me to cover my medical costs, and I'll take care of my own recovery, the one who caused him the injury may say to him, all the more so, with this proposal, is there a concern that you'll be negligent with yourself, as you will wish to profit, and you will not spend the money on your recovery, and people will call me an ox that caused damage, because I caused an injury from which you did not recover. With regard to compensation for paying medical costs, loss of livelihood, and humiliation, the sages taught in the Brisa, and all these types of indemnity are paid. There are 5 types of indemnity for injuries, depending on the type of injury in question. One who injures another pays all or some of them. Let's say, for the Zich and Mazik 2:1, Mishpat 423. The Mishnah could have been understood as teaching that for each of the 5 types of indemnity it is paid when it is the only indemnity for which the guilty party is liable, but in the case of injury that includes damage, only indemnity for damage is paid. Although the Mishnah explicitly discussed indemnity for loss of livelihood in the case of damage, the Brisa teaches that the other types of indemnity are also paid to derive it. In a case where the one who caused injury must also pay compensation for damage. The Gemara asks, from where these matters derive? Rav Zeved said in the name of Bava. The verse states a wound for a wound, the 21-25, to teach that one who caused injury is liable to give compensation for pain in the case of damage. The Gemara asks, but isn't it necessary to teach an additional halacha? Thank you for listening and all the best. Bye.